And let me make this caveat now. Not every woman will have the same experience.
Sure.
Some women will go through menopause and they're like, what is everybody complaining about? These are wimps. Other women, like my wife, had a horrible, miserable experience.
Sure.
So, but that doesn't mean everyone will. And it also means let's not assume that we'll have a horrible experience. And again, I go back to regardless of what's going to happen, if you have a commitment to a fitness lifestyle, you're winning.
Let go. Hey, okay, I know I'm here to stay. Counting on my wins, so I can't play it safe. Try to go against us, get you out the way. Go hard, it's the only way to play. Let me say, I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Who can do it better? I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Hey, look.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Sculpting. It is your girl, Erica Lynn O'Keefe.
Oh, it took everything out of me not to say it at the same time. Hey, you guys, I'm Gloria Govian. Welcome back.
She's so annoying.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Turn this up. No.
This is probably one of the most excited we've been so far with the guest.
Yeah, let me explain something to you guys real fast. The amount of information we're about to receive, not for you guys, but like on us, is going to be really, really exciting
we do
for
this
us.
podcast for ourselves. No, but our guest today is very knowledgeable. He is an expert. He has been cited over 10,000 times. I know that's right. One and the only Mr.
Dr. Bill Campbell. Insert applause.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. And that was quite an introduction.
We try.
And can
Really
I thank
hard.
you for acknowledging I have 10,000 citations?
Absolutely.
Yes.
One time I walked into a podcast studio and they had like 7,000, like it was not even in the
the
neighborhood
audacity.
of, yeah. And it
Could
was
you
like,
imagine?
did you do any homework
At all.
Could
God.
not be
on my
us.
credentials? Yes.
Could not be us.
Because
Okay.
we do our shit.
Hello. No, but honestly, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to
Yes,
speak with us.
so much fun.
We're really excited to dive in and ask you a bunch of questions. A lot of our audience are parents and women and folks like ourselves who are trying to get our lives together. And as we know, one of the core places to do that is with our nutrition and the way that we're handling our bodies. And in this kind of climate right now, I think everyone's like hyper focused on it in a lot of different ways, but not really prepared or having the appropriate information because there's so much information out there. So we're excited to kind of get your perspective on it and what you have learned and all that. So thank you very much for being here.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm excited to be here.
So let's
I'm
start
excited.
from the beginning. Like, what initially got you into this space and dealing with fitness and physical enhancement and all of that?
Yeah, so that takes me back to when I was in my early 20s. I loved
So
body.
last week.
Yes, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Loved bodybuilding. I just everything about lifting weights, taking supplements, tracking my diet. So I kind of had this vision. I'm like, I want to be a bodybuilding researcher.
Okay.
So I'm not a bodybuilding researcher, but I do research body fat and muscle, and exercise and nutrition, so how it affects body composition.
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
Got
Okay,
it.
so again, when I tell you I'm going to lean in because I've got so many questions. Okay, let me sit up. Let me get serious, guys. This is about to get serious. Okay, so let's talk.
All right.
Let's primarily talk menopause, or premenopause, rather.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Super, like, this
Yeah,
just took
you
a
went
whole
there.
left because this is like, I have him, so I'm going to really dive in. But
Go
he's
for it,
also written a book, and he's also talked a lot about, like, you know, his wife's journey through menopause and all things. And because we mentioned a lot of our audience is female, you know, I think that's, you know, and I'm almost 40. And so
I'm glad
just let it go. And some of the, I think, natural things that I'm starting to like recognize in my body, and like, you know, how my body holds fat, how my body is talking to me about, like, or really the internet's talking to me about cortisol now that I'm like this age, because apparently my phone listens to things.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself.
You know, like all of a sudden you start seeing things that you suddenly are like, oh, maybe I should take, you know, advantage of that, of mushroom coffee, of cortisol, of, you know, adding collagen to my coffee, like all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Is premenopause, like, is that around the age? Like, are we around the age?
So the average age of menopause, and that's defined in the nerdy science world as 1 year since you've had your last menstrual cycle. So the average
Oh.
age of menopause is
Yeah.
51 years old.
Okay.
But
Okay.
perimenopause can be very early for some women.
Okay.
It can be late for some women. So some women might actually be menopausal at 44 years old. It might be 57 for others. But on average, it's 51. And then we take that and we say, okay, well, what's the perimenopause timeline? That's could be 5 to 7 years. So on average, you're both not quite there yet on average, but
Sure.
but
You never know.
you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
you never know.
So me freaking out on my kids, it's really just more about like, because they're just.
Just because you're crazy, ma'am. Are there things that we, as we get into our 40s and stuff like that, as women, especially as women, that we should be considering or thinking about in how we approach our nutrition, our diets, and all that stuff to help against a lot of these things that come with age with us, like the
Yes.
menopause?
So what I like to advocate for is, regardless of any age,
Mm-hmm.
but particularly as we get around 39 years old,
Okay.
you want to embrace a fitness lifestyle.
Okay.
And we can talk hormone replacement therapy later, but there is nothing better to prepare you for aging. And essentially, menopause is an accelerated aging process on many fronts. So I always like to start the conversation with a commitment to a fitness lifestyle.
Okay.
And what does that mean? That means prioritizing resistance training, lifting weights, because during the menopause transition, this is, I'm going to describe this as about a 4-year period. Two things happen to a woman's body besides the hormone changes. So right now, you and my wife and most women in general are gaining a little bit of body fat each year. But about 2 years prior to menopause, we have an inflection point where the increase in body fat is happening at an accelerated rate.
Disrespect.
I know. And it's
pretty
what I like
disrespectful.
to call physiology. And
It's a thing.
Right.
Yes.
And he's like, here we are.
and let me make this caveat now. Not every woman will have the same experience.
Sure.
Some women will go through menopause and they're like, what is everybody complaining about? These are wimps. Other women, like my wife, had a horrible, miserable experience.
Sure.
So, but that doesn't mean everyone will. And it also means let's not assume that we'll have a horrible experience. And again, I go back to, regardless of what's going to happen, if you have a commitment to a fitness lifestyle, you're winning. That's exactly where you went. All right, the other part of this, an accelerated rate of fat gain, and for the first time in a woman's life, this inflection point, while body fat starts to go up, she's now starting to lose lean muscle for the first time in her life.
You
So
know
she's
what?
actually
We have to
gaining a little
talk.
bit. Yes, not everybody, but the research suggests that those are the averages.
Sure.
So what can help with this? Well, a commitment to a fitness lifestyle, prioritizing weightlifting, is the best stimulus for building muscle, or at a minimum, maintaining it.
Okay.
And then, you can also burn fat with resistance exercise, but then we also look at cardio exercise. So yes, our bodies are changing, but we also have an accelerated risk of bone mineral density loss at this time. That's accelerated. We have an accelerated risk for cardiovascular disease. I mean, wish I could say something good here, but it's.
I mean,
I
it
literally was
just-
like,
it's
holy
reality.
shit.
Eventually, he'll get to the good news.
Oh, man.
So cardio, is your best defense for limiting this increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Bone mineral density, that's more of a resistance training defense. The resistance training will help protect against that. So that's what's going on in the body. And of course, the hormones that are changing are, the two main ones are estrogen, specifically estradiol is the form of estrogen. That starts to go down, and progesterone, that also starts to go down. So that's what's happening hormonally. And then we have all these other things that's happening.
So the 10,000 steps, sorry. I knew I told her before this was really a podcast about me, so that's crazy. No, the 10,000 steps, is that like, is that helpful everyone's like, if you could just reach 10,000 steps a day, like what does that do? Talk to me.
Yeah. So I don't shame any exercise. I shame pink dumbbells. I don't like pink dumbbells because a lot of people they think that these are heavy enough to lift, and I'm like, no, don't use pink dumbbells.
Fair.
But other than that, I would love for people to get 10,000 steps.
Okay.
It's awesome. It's good. It's physical activity.
Yes.
And I mean, outdoors, treadmill. But if that's the only thing you're doing and you have a capability or the capacity to do more, then I would say, hey, some of your cardio should be higher intensity, because it's when you're doing high intensity cardio. So to think of that as, are you doing something where you're getting out of breath? Like you have to catch your breath. That's what will really improve your aerobic fitness. And when you improve your aerobic fitness, think of, I'm just going to name some systems and organs that are helped. So your cardiorespiratory system, your lungs are going to be functioning better. Your cardiovascular system, your heart's going to pump harder. Your blood vessels are going to deliver blood to your muscles better. There's going to be less, blockage of atherosclerosis. And then your muscles have to take in this oxygen. So when you train with higher intensity, not all the time, you are literally increasing the health of all of these systems and organs. So love walking, 10,000 steps, great. But if you can do more, let's do more.
Do more?
Yes.
Got it.
But and also do what you like.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have to sprint. And a lot of people, they're striving to get 10,000 steps, and I would say you keep, let me applaud that, and you keep doing 10,000 steps.
Hell yeah. Okay, 10,000 steps.
So if we're talking about kind of having a healthy fitness routine, whatnot, right? And so somebody like myself I don't do exercise, working out. I don't get excited to work out. Like she'd be like, oh, I'm going to the gym. Oh my God. And I'm like, good for you. I'm going to go home. And because, it's just not my jam, right? But I do want to look good in my clothes. I do want to be healthy. I do want to live a long, extended life if I can help it, right?
Yes.
So if we're talking to the people who are like myself, and even beyond just the scares of what's to come as we get older, but just in general, right? What is kind of the basics of what a good, healthy level of fitness routine looks like? How many days am I considering, getting this kind of specific type of workout in versus that one? Obviously, we're in a day and age where everyone's a fitness instructor, guru or whatever it is on social media. So everybody's putting out their routine on TikTok and hoping you're going to like it so you can buy their little product or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
I've saved them. I'm going to do my squats. I'm going to get some ass. It's a thing. One day. Next Monday. But the point is, if we're talking about realistically, and how to really create a routine for yourself that can be effective and sustainable, what is kind of our base of how many days, kind of what it really take to kind of maintain that?
So let me start a little more broad, and let me ask you specifically.
Sure.
What is an activity that you would enjoy the most or hate the least? So what would that be? Do you like shooting hoops?
I like shooting hoops. I like kickboxing. I actually like spin. I'm athletic, so I like outdoorsy things too. So I lost 35 pounds or so last year, and most of it was me going out and doing the stairs at Redondo. So I would do a whole stairs routine and then come back and then kind of add some resistant weights and stuff like that in between, and that was enjoyable for me. So stuff like that.
Okay.
Naturally, the 35 pounds down.
Yeah, and water. Yeah, I know. Everybody was like, you was on that? No.
Right, yes.
I drank a lot of water. I cooked my own food, and I was walking.
So I sense athleticism. So that's kind of why I asked. So whatever you like, that's what you're going to do.
Sure.
And I would embrace that, because that is fitness. A lot of people think I have to be on a treadmill or I have to be in a weight room. Now, I want to aspire people to lift weights.
Okay.
But if you hate it, that doesn't mean that you just throw away the entire commitment to fitness. So what do you like doing? Do that. I used to love doing like layup drills. I haven't done them for a while, but that was very fun for me.
Okay.
For my fitness, and I was dribbling, sprinting and getting out of breath, and it was awesome. As I've gotten I used to play basketball in college. Well, play's a strong word. I was on the team.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
I was definitely about to go into that, that type of, in terms of that type of fitness, at what point did you realize, let me was it an age? Was it a kind of a more physicality and ability? Where you like, I got to switch from like, you know what I mean, playing basketball to X rather than.
So, yeah, and this is actually pretty vivid in my mind. So when I was younger, basketball consumed my, like, that was the reason I went to college. And when I say I played in college, Division III college, no scholarship. But I made the team, and that was my identity, and I loved it. I still have the sneakers that they gave me they were Nikes, and I still have it in the box. Like that is like one of those moments that I just have so much pride over. And then I played was on the team for 3 years, and after got a new coach, and it was the 4th year, so I would have been a senior, and I don't know what happened, but I was like, I love lifting weights. Okay. And that's when this bodybuilding, I just started, like I said, loving bodybuilding. So I didn't play my senior year.
Like you quit? Like you let it go?
I don't like to say
sorry.
quit.
Yeah, that was very aggressive.
No, but I did.
I mean, but like you let it go?
I let it go.
Okay.
At no expense to the team because I was the best practice player. Like I took it so seriously.
Fuck yeah, you did.
So that was my
transition.
Yes, yeah. Like I loved lifting weights, and now I really don't like exercising. I do it. Oh yeah, it's a challenge. I'm pretty consistent. Like the one thing that I really don't like is back squats, like putting a barbell on my back and squatting.
Yeah.
But I do it, and I've. It's more of just it's a huge mental win. So I don't like it, but every day I'm like, this is actually what I think. I'm getting to the age where a lot of other men my age can't do it or choosing it. So I'm just like, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And then when I'm done, I'm like, yes. And I only do it once a week. That's my goal. Once a week, I'm going to squat relatively heavy for me. So
do you use the Smith machine?
No, I use a bar, free weights. Yep. So I'm an exercise scientist. I think I'm supposed to say I love exercise. I don't. I wish I did.
I appreciate that.
No,
it makes me feel better.
Right. Also, so it took me. Do you take your wife with you, or do you like take? You know what I mean? Like, is this a?
No, she prefers not to be with me when she exercises.
That's fair.
She
wants to do her own thing.
Because I can't get away from the. Put your elbow there.
And
I try.
The form.
Yeah, so she refuses to do cardio. She lifts weights, but she prefers to do that without her exercise scientist there.
Husband, which is crazy, right? For free.
So if I'm just getting into it, and to your point, a good entry point is finding what you enjoy doing, right?
And lean into it.
Okay.
Embrace it, do it, and then. I think I kind of said this in other ways, but if you can lift weights, if you hate it, that's fine. If you're never going to do it, I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to have you lean into what you like. But if there is any form of resistance training that you can do, that would be a good thing to do.
How frequent would you say that part of it is necessary to do in a week? Like, lifting weights, resistance, all that.
I would make that relative to the individual.
Okay.
So if somebody said, I hate it, okay, could we do it once a week? Could we do that? And then let's just say somebody doesn't hate it, anywhere from 2 to 4 times per week. And then I would adjust the types of workout. So if you're lifting 2 days per week, I would prescribe, hey, we're going to work your whole body. We're going to do something for your glutes, for your quads, your back, your shoulders, chest. And then once you start going to 3 days, then it would be, hey, we'll do a lower body, then an upper body, and then a lower body this week. And then next week, we'll do 2 upper bodies and 1 lower body. So there's an infinite number of ways to do this, yes. But once a week is plenty for somebody who's starting. Plenty.
Okay.
Because
and there's something to the idea of allowing your muscles and stuff to not get too used to doing the same, like the repetition of it, right? So is it, or at least I've heard, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm going to do weightlifting or weight training of some nature twice a week, then I want to make sure that I'm working different areas of my body within that week and switching it up, or is that?
So I have a couple thoughts on that. It makes sense that we switch it up logically. Some of the more recent research suggests that it really makes no difference. Now, I would suggest it can be very boring to do the same thing all the time. So I myself will switch up exercises. But to be fair, there's only so many things you can do for like the quads, like leg extensions, squats, leg press, lunges, step ups. Like I've pretty much exhausted everything in my work.
Yeah.
Like, so there's only so many things. But yeah, I like the idea of there's no harm in switching it up.
Okay.
But if somebody was doing the same thing all the time, I can't say, hey, there's 26 studies saying that that's not ideal. I can't say that.
Okay, got it. And then is there truth to, like, I know that you can build muscle and all that type of stuff. Like I said, like I genuinely am trying to like kind of shape out and want to build glutes. And I know it's a very popular thing right now. Everybody wants to build their ass and all that jazz. But I didn't even try. It just naturally rhymed. Anyways, just that good. But is that reality? I know everybody's body's different and they're going to respond to different workouts and stuff like that different. But is there a fundamental, like, if you're doing these kind of exercises to achieve this type of body goal, they're 9 times out of 10 most likely to work because that just works? Or is it really specific to your body and whether or not your body, you know, kind of reacts to that?
Has the ability to like build that.
No, so that's the great thing about resistance training.
Okay.
You can use that form of exercise to shape your body. Cardio just generally it does. I mean, it can help you lose body weight, but that's not specific to your body. So resistance training does allow you, within reason, to sculpt certain muscles. Okay. So if you wanted to grow, let me just use my wife as an example. She loves to do chest. She wants more muscles in her chest, so she does a lot of chest. She might not want. I don't know what she wants, everything. But anyway, if you don't want a bigger muscle in an area, then don't lift that area. There's no stimulus. So anything that you're going to lift provides a stimulus on that muscle. And then when you leave the gym, and when we talk about nutrition, eat optimal protein, and now your body will adapt to that workout stimulus.
Gotcha. Yeah. Is there anything like like kind of being like silly, is there anything in the gym that you're like, when you can't stand when people do and you're like, what? Seriously? Cut it out.
I'm going to go off track a little bit. I'm a professor and I work with a lot of students. So a lot of my female students tell me, and I agree, can't they just work out without men? Hey, your form's not great. I didn't ask you if my form was good. So that would, it's a pet peeve on behalf of my students. But in terms of exercises, no, I think it's just the people generally that are experts.
Right,
yes.
Right, that do a thing. Yeah. Yes. I always see like in these, if you look on Instagram, you'll see like people like lifting bikes or like, just doing absolutely ridiculous stuff with machines. And I'm always like, dude, if you walked into a gym, I'm sure you're like, what's happening? What in the circus is happening right now?
Yes. And to be fair, my laboratory at my university is a weight room. So I lift in my lab.
Oh, nice.
And I have some stuff in my garage. So I don't really go to where all the cool kids
That's
go.
Fair.
So I'm not seeing a lot of
good
that.
for you.
It's much better for you.
Yeah, so it's like,
exactly.
You're winning. I like that.
So in talking about, because, you always hear that nutrition is like 90% of it, or however many, and you'll tell us specifically, of it. And then the physical is the other part of it. Has there been a pivotal moment in your research as you've kind of done both from the physical and the nutritional side that like, when you got that information, it kind of opened something else up to how you approach your like students and what you're teaching
and nutrition?
Yeah.
Let me think about this. I would say one of the most, I guess, studies that changed my thinking on things was called a flexible dieting study. Are you familiar with that concept?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so essentially what we did, this was a 20-week study, 10 weeks where we put fit people on a diet, and then 10 weeks of not what we call ad libitum. They could eat whatever they want. Okay. I'm just going to focus on the 10 weeks of dieting. And what we did was we said, okay, for the first week, just chart everything you're doing. Write down everything that you're eating so we know what your baseline calories are. So let's just pretend it was 2,000 calories for all of these subjects. Then we said, all right, we're going to reduce everybody's calories by 25%. So you're going from 2,000 to 1,500. We had two groups, and these were men and women. One group, we gave them a meal plan, and we said, here's all the food. So I had a registered dietitian. They wrote out all these meal plans. Here's what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, all these healthy foods, very limited rotations of foods. So there was not much variety. And we also said that they had to eat so much protein. But again, that was in their meal plan. The other group, we said, we don't care what you eat. You have to eat 1,500 calories, and you have to get this much protein. But the foods you choose, the times that you eat them,
On you.
on you. So we call that flexible dieting.
Okay.
At the end of the 10 weeks, there was no differences. So there is nothing special about a meal plan, which was the kind of the thinking. Actually, this concept had already been around for a while. My lab was the first lab to ever validate this in a fit population.
Okay.
So yeah, that was like, because I used to, I remember even in my PhDs in nutrition, I'm like, well, you can't eat, Pop-Tarts. And not that you should have a high Pop-Tart diet.
Sure.
But still.
But if you keep your calories at 1,500, you will lose just as much weight as somebody who's eating all the healthy foods. Now, I'm not advocating for a Pop-Tart diet.
Yeah.
And the fact is, the more processed foods you eat, the much hungrier you're going to be, and the more difficult that diet will be for you.
Got it.
So I want to be, it's not a license to, to have a food orgy of Pop-Tarts and Skittles.
And whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
that's wild. I mean, all these new, I feel like everybody, again, if you're not a food or fitness guru, you're coming out with some sort of meal prep, home delivery. I mean, my kids are on a home delivery because they're little athletes, so they eat a specific amount of protein. But that's disrespectful. Do you know how much money is spent on meal plan, meal prep? I mean, of course you do, but this is crazy.
Yeah. So,
I want my money back, is what I'm saying.
no, but there is all of this I don't want to lose sight of.
Yeah.
If you can choose healthier whole foods, that is the best.
Right, your best, yeah.
Yeah.
But that study, I think we published that in 2018, and I think we did the study in 2016. But that was one of those that I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I now have evidence that the calories are more important than the foods for weight loss.
Okay.
We didn't measure health outcomes. We weren't looking at blood pressure or blood lipids. And I'll say, in general, this was a fit population. They all had the same amount of protein. They were probably choosing healthy foods.
Sure.
Yeah,
Naturally.
Yeah, I was going to say, if
Unless
you
I
have
was
it,
a subject.
Right.
I would have gotten Cheetos.
Oh, yeah,
as much as I could.
The hot Cheetos,
Hello.
absolutely. Let's
Yeah,
go.
the flexible.
Flamin'.
Flamin' hot Cheetos,
Yes.
exactly.
The
My
flexibles
style.
definitely speaking my language.
Exactly.
Okay, so if I'm someone who does not necessarily have a lot of resources, right? Because to your point, where meal plans and all that stuff actually comes in handy is it takes the thinking out of it. I think a lot of people, the other struggle with nutrition, myself specifically, is having to think about what I'm going to eat becomes more stressful than actually eating half the time. And by the time I'm either running late or got done, now I'm just going to the fast food place because it's
Yeah,
just
no one
easier
has
to
time,
sit there,
yeah.
right? So that's where having meal plan, meal prepping actually beyond just the health benefits, but just it helps you stay focused and on track. But if you don't necessarily have the resources to get to a nutritionist or to have somebody who's going to give you a specific meal plan, what would you say is kind of the easiest and most accessible way that someone can start to chart that out for what that might look like for them so that they can craft a meal plan that works?
Yeah, so
them.
I love, this is my favorite thing. So it would be a protein-anchored, flexible diet system, or flexible eating. Doesn't have to, we're not assuming these people are dieting. So what does this mean? This means that you're going to prioritize your protein. So let's say somebody weighs 150 pounds. How much protein should I eat? Well, I recommend 0.75 up to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So that means if somebody weighs 150 pounds, they would eat 150 grams of protein every day, and 3/4 of that would be something less than that.
Yeah.
A little under that. Y'all got a calculator. It's fine.
So at the start of your day, just say, okay, how many times am I going to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack? Okay, so let's divide that protein into approximately equal distribution. So 150, so that's going to be around 37, 38 grams of protein for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, or ideally post-workout, assuming that somebody's getting a workout in. And that, again, there's the protein anchored part. Now the next part is, how many calories do you need so that for your goals? So let's just say your goal is, I just want to maintain my weight. So now you have to say, okay, with my remaining calories, you just get them from carbs and fat. And I love these nutrition apps because now that's going to teach you, oh, this has high protein. Oh, this has more dietary fat. And not that fat's bad, but you're going to start to learn which foods are really high calories, which ones are low protein, which ones are high protein. So to me, this flexible dieting, choosing your foods to kind of fit, I need this much protein and I know I need this many calories, whether they be coming from carbs or fats. What I like about that is it gives you a food education that you'll have the rest of your life.
Sure.
So you'll know chicken breast is a lot of protein. Broccoli is all carbs. Butter is mostly fat. Does that make sense? And you don't forget that.
Yeah.
Now it is an investment of time to scan the barcode or put it in, but I love it because I think it teaches people so much about food and nutrition.
That's good to know because from your because like I've used like my Fitness Pal and kind of some of those before. Yeah. Are you
all that? Yeah.
do you are supportive of those? Okay.
Yep. Now, I want to be careful. Some people can be a little obsessive with them. I'll give an example for myself. I come from an obese family, so I have to be very careful about what I eat. So when I use an app, Macros First is what I use now, but I've used my Fitness Pal and still they started to charge me for it. And
I know.
And then you're like, nope, look at us switching.
Okay. Yes, exactly. So when I'm tracking, I can maintain my weight and I'm on task. As soon as I stop tracking, well, when I wouldn't eat pizza that I'm offered if I'm tracking. But if I'm not tracking and somebody offers me pizza, oh, sure, I'll have some extra 2 or 9 pieces. And so I've learned in my own life, if I'm not tracking, my weight will start to creep up.
Sure.
But I'm also a fat loss scientist, so I actually enjoy the process of dieting because then I learn and then I gain weight and then I diet again. So I've done that throughout my whole life.
And do you feel like the without like an app, but just kind of journaling, like your food is equal to that same? Okay.
Yeah, that actually probably is a better. It takes a lot more time, but journaling, like now you're actually, I don't know, becoming one with the meal.
But you're
one with your journal. Yeah.
There's something to writing things down that your brain just retains it stronger than when you're typing it into your phone or your app. So I can
but
see
then what do you do with that information? If you're journaling, like then what do people go? Like what do you do?
In that case, if you're journaling, in theory, you're going to be more in tune with, I feel bloated. What did I eat? Whereas if you're just scanning things, not that you couldn't have that, but there's something about, and again, this is not my research area, but I have read, when you write things down, you're forced to have more of a hand or tactile brain connection, and you do start to have a better feeling of food and how it's how it's affecting your body.
Got you. So not necessarily like I ate, a piece of pizza and that was knowing the calories, but more so just being connected to how your body reacts to food and then knowing to, be able to pinpoint specifically like, oh, that's interesting. I ate, garbanzo beans today and that like really messed with me.
And one other thing is when people do journal, they make better choices. Just the act of writing it down.
Do you feel like ashamed? Are you like, pizza? Pizza.
It might make you feel a little bit more accountable, right? Like even if we're taking food out of it, if you're just journaling in life, right? Like if we're talking about your day or your mental health stuff and all that type of stuff, it is something about the idea of putting this on paper. Now it's out of my head in such a way that it is challenging me, and I think that probably has some connective tissue to how it would challenge us with food.
Do you guys journal just about life stuff? Or?
Yeah, I journal. Yeah, I'm a writer in general, so I'm more inclined to like journal when I'm going through things and stuff. I'm not as consistently as I would like to, but it is probably one of the first things I think to do if I'm having like a mental health issue.
Yes.
I just have conversations with like my several personalities, so
Oh,
I just
that
put
sounds
none
very
of pen to
entertaining.
paper.
It's
Used to hang
something.
out.
Has there been, especially in all of your years of this, and as a research, you've done research, especially when you're dealing with students and then kind of the younger generation, and as they're learning, what's one of, or maybe two of the biggest myths or that they come to you with, and you're like,
Like, Lord
for
Jesus.
for centuries they've been teaching this thing, and
Right.
it's not really.
Like nutrition myths or anything? Like
Anything.
fitness
Hit us
myths?
with that. Yeah,
On
hit
both
us with
fronts,
it.
let's say on the fitness and the nutrition.
Okay,
One
so
is-
I think one of my pet peeves, which comes from not just students but just culture,
Yeah.
is an unrealistic expectation of how long it takes to lose body weight or body fat.
Ooh, okay.
People, and again,
It
this
doesn't take you forever. That's just, come on. No.
takes a lot longer than what we're led to believe by looking at social media before and after pictures or commercials that, promise overnight. So, yeah, people are expecting, I've been dieting for 3 days now and I haven't lost any weight. And it's like,
Well, yeah.
And but on the Instagram, Sally, I'm like, no, you can't. That's not real.
It's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's doctor or whatever. So that's, I think that's my biggest. As a fat loss researcher, it is addressing very unrealistic expectations about the amount of time and effort. But the reality is, it doesn't take long to lose body fat.
Okay.
If you just compare where you're at today to where you were at 2 weeks ago, as long as you've been consistent in following your diet, you're going to see success almost across the board. Now, I will make a caveat here. Women going through menopause tend to have something called weight loss resistance. I believe that to be the case. But that's a unique population that only exists for a certain period of time. So in general, though, people that aren't in this unique situation of life, if they just would be patient and appreciate, let me compare every 2 weeks, they'll see that it's working.
Is there a, I don't want to say like healthiest or most ideal per se, but if you are talking to someone who is going through a weight loss journey and all that, is there an ideal kind of pace that you would set them on so that they do have a little bit more realistic expectation of time frame?
So I have a range of, let me put it at the top range. If you lose more than 1% of your current body weight per week,
Okay.
so if I weigh 100 pounds, that's 1 pound per week. I weigh actually about 200 pounds. So if I lose more than 2 pounds per week at my body weight, I am likely losing a lot more of my body weight from muscle than body fat. So if you're only going to look at the scale, and I encourage people to also get body composition tests so you can see how much is coming from fat versus muscle, and water for that matter. But once you go above 1% of your body weight per week, you're losing weight too quickly and you're going to be losing muscle mass. And where that's a problem is, as soon as your diet is over, if you lost a lot of muscle mass, that is a bad recipe, because what happens is when your diet's over, you have a higher hunger drive and your body basically is saying, I am hungry. I'm done dieting now. I met my goal. But now your body is essentially like a sponge, so that any extra calories you eat are going to be deposited as body fat. And what's sad about this is people gain more body fat in a very short period of time than what they had before they initially started their diet.
Right.
And I want to say this: the evil of this is crash dieting.
Yes.
I'm going to starve myself for a month, and even worse, I'm going to do 2 hours of cardio. That's the type of stuff. And again, you look at the scale, it's working. Oh, it's working.
Sure.
Right.
But I used to be a fitness trainer, and people would go on cruises and they would really diet hard before they went on these cruises, and they would meet their weight. And I remember to this day, it's not funny, but I'm like, I don't know what emotion it is, but they came back and they were not they
Like,
gain so
so
much.
much
Because
weight.
I've never been on a cruise, but
Me neither.
I know that I know that they're unlimited access
Oh
to
my gosh,
food.
you got to go on a cruise. You just do nothing but eat and drink. It's fantastic. Like it's literally set up for you to just sit
Yes.
there and eat the entire time and drink on a
And this is
floating
why they
thing.
come back, double.
Absolutely.
But so
Yes.
many people pay attention to the number. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, so you
Yes.
talk about body competition. There's this new scale. I think it's called Hume. I don't know. It's Hume. Pronounce it how you want to. And so you hold on to the bar, right? And
Yeah.
it like reads your whole jam. And that's what in my opinion, like I just find that to be probably a little bit more accessible, like in terms of understanding where you're headed. Because a lot of people say, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
And they just want to see that number go down, not
Yes.
realizing that it could, that's most likely muscle or just, bone dead. Like they kind of end up fucking themselves over.
Do you have feelings around having a healthy relationship with your scale? Because you have the people who will get on every day, right, and then are monitoring this thing, or try to limit themselves only once a week, or all that stuff. Is there an ideal kind of healthy relationship with the scale that kind of can help people in that regard?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one, you want to be very sensitive to people who, if weighing themselves or stepping on a scale, if that puts them in a bad mental place, we don't want to.
Right.
We don't want to use that as a trigger. Some people have no problem. Now, as a scientist, I love it when people have no problems and they weigh themselves every day.
Oh.
Because what I have them do is you weigh yourself every day. And again, these are for people that
Same time every day?
yes, yeah. You get up in the morning,
Okay.
go
Do a thing.
void yourself, yep. Wear the same clothes, and then you weigh in. And then you do that every day for 7 days, and now you take an average of that week. And then you do it again the next week. Every
the
day, and you
average
take an
part.
average. Yeah, because when you don't do that, this is where it gets bad.
Yeah.
Some days you weigh more than others.
Right.
So your diet could be working great, but for whatever reason, you're 2 pounds heavier today. And then you're calling me or your trainer and saying, this is garbage.
Yeah.
I'm done. And it's like, if you had taken a 7-day average, that kind of washes away these high days and some low days. It gives you a more true picture of what's actually happening.
Okay.
So that's when I say, compare what you're doing today versus 2 weeks ago. If you can take it this week's average versus last week's average, almost always you're going to see progress.
No one
Okay.
ever talks about average.
Yeah.
Oh,
like-
and especially for women, you
That's
have
so rude.
fluctuations throughout the month.
Yeah.
And you want averages. Now, a question that I always ask people is, does this put you in a bad place? So one of the last
scale?
Yeah,
Or
the
the-
scale.
okay,
I'm sorry,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the last women that I was working with, she was not in a good place with the scale. Every day she's like, I can't do it. And we kept talking through it because I'm like, okay, well, you don't ever have to. Let's work with what you're willing to work with. And where we landed was, she's like, well, I want to weigh in. She goes, it's some days that I don't feel good. And basically I got her to admit, she would wake up and if she couldn't touch her thumb to the
Oh.
finger, she's like, this is going to be a bad day for me. And I'm like, okay, well then that's a day that you won't
Interesting.
weigh in.
Yeah.
But even though that doesn't mean she gained more fat, she might just be retaining more water
Yeah.
or
She
something.
like just woke up. Yeah,
But our
that's the whole thing.
system was that she came, like, I always like people to make their, like, I'm just the guide. Like, I try to talk them through. But our system was, which is kind of neat, if she could touch, I'm going to weigh in today.
Okay.
And then days that she couldn't touch. So at least we had certain, maybe it was, whatever. It wasn't 7 days, but we had enough data points that I was able to make adjustments to her
can work
program.
with it.
Because her goal was fat loss.
Yeah. And what about things like intermittent fasting, or, you always tell
is
don't
why-
eat after a certain time, things along that nature. Do you find that stuff to be,
Helpful.
yeah, I guess helpful, or?
So
Reason?
intermittent fasting, not eating past a certain time, no. I can't point to research and say this is clearly better.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What? Can you just say that? Can you just say that one more time
Yeah.
for our audience? You guys hear this? Don't starve yourselves. Come on, people.
Yeah, definitely don't starve yourself, because if you're starving yourself, you're losing muscle, and that is not going to be helpful long term for maintaining lower body fat levels. But I always like to ask people. Well, let me just tell my own story. So I used to think for many years you have to eat breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah.
And then I tried to do research on this. Nothing. Couldn't find any study. Had my students. My students are much smarter than I am. I said, find research on that breakfast is important. Nothing.
Tell me it's not. I'm sorry, finish.
No,
Okay.
there's no.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying don't eat breakfast. I'm saying what
It's
I've
not
learned
the
for
most
me
important.
was I'm forcing myself to eat breakfast, so 700 calories. I already told you I have to be conscious of overeating. I easily overeat, and I'm starving at lunch and dinner. But if I already ate 700 calories per breakfast, now I have to be hungry. So what I learned was I'm not hungry in the morning. Why would I eat? I know I'm hungry at lunch and dinner. Let me use those calories to when I have a naturally high hunger drive. Let me eat when I'm hungry and not eat when I'm not. Now, for somebody else, maybe they are not hungry at all at night. My wife my wife has to eat breakfast. Let me tell you.
Right.
She has
For everybody
to.
involved.
Everybody,
Right. Yeah,
everybody knows exactly what he just meant.
Yes. When we go on, if we're driving somewhere,
Yeah.
it is, and she does, let me just say, she does everything. My one job, besides putting the suitcases in the car, is to make sure that she eats something. 'Cause we'll all suffer. That's
Good
No,
man.
But-
I was like,
so-
very smart man.
Yeah, so I don't need to eat breakfast. She does. I would encourage people try to determine what is your natural drive for hunger, and then just work with it. Like it bothers me when there's black and white advice.
Yeah.
Absolutes. Don't ever eat past this. Well, what if I want to? No.
Right. What if I am hungry?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not a
Fuck.
breakfast person, so I've because everyone's like, you have to eat breakfast, you have to do the thing. I've been trying to force myself to eat
Yeah.
breakfast, but it does not come naturally to me. So that's
Are you hungry in the morning?
no. So,
So I
yeah.
would tell you, and again, I eat my first meal 10, 11, 12.
Yes.
Some people have said, oh, you're intermittent fasting.
Right.
And I don't like, okay, I am, but I don't like calling it that. I like to call it, I'm not eating breakfast, because I know it has labels. And as a professor, if I say that, then it's taken away. So
Yeah.
you can call it whatever you want, but I call it, I don't eat breakfast. I eat
Okay.
a larger lunch and dinner.
Okay.
Got you. If we pivot into kind of just more, like we've spoken a lot about women and ourselves, obviously, but if we dive into some of these things as it relates to youth and athletes, should you, as an athlete, as a youth, eat breakfast? Is it
Well, yeah. I want to say that the concept is fueling your athlete.
okay?
If I have an athlete who's going to train, I want to make sure I mostly work with adults, so I don't work with youth. I want to make sure two things. One, are they getting enough protein, because that's going to help them recover from their training, recover from their workouts. It's going to enable them to build muscle. And actually protein is what allows their muscles to adapt to their training. But carbs and fats are their energy. Those are what I call the carbs and fats are the fueling nutrients. That's what gives them the energy for their workouts. The protein is what I call the adaptive nutrient. That's what allows you to adapt to your training, your practice, your skill acquisition. So, yeah, if I'm working with an athlete, definitely sensitive. When's your practice? When's your training? And I'm going to feed for that. If it's not until like at night and they're not hungry, I still don't think I would force them to eat breakfast. And again, a lot of people are hungry in the morning, and it's not.
Yes,
we don't have
it's
to
not
worry.
a
We don't have-
factor. Yeah.
Yeah, talking
but
to those.
I would tend to err on the side of feeding breakfast rather than not when they're younger, just because I don't know how in tune they are with this stuff.
yeah.
And again, I was in my 30s before I realized I'm not hungry in the morning.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Probably ate way more as a kid. Is it important to eat before you go to work out or before they're going to practice and all that type of stuff? I know that's something I also think about because I'm not hungry in the morning, but I try to work out in the morning. I'm like, dang, should I have something in my stomach before I go? Or is it okay if I go ahead and work out and then make sure that I eat after?
Yeah, so some people perform much better on an empty stomach. Now, again, not eating all day and then going to practice
Yeah, it's
at
crazy.
5,
Yeah.
but that's something I would encourage, just experimentation. So,
Okay.
hey, let's just say I'll have a fictitious son, Brad. Brad, we're going to feed you an hour before your practice. Tell me how you felt after this. we're not going to feed you an hour before. How did you feel? And do that for a couple days. And I would want to get that. Some people call it like biofeedback. I want to know just how does he feel like his food intake relative to the timing of his practices and competitions. How is that working for him? And then we compare that with maybe a larger meal afterwards. I know what we've learned from my daughter does gymnastics. Which is, I feel like we're walking through like a very tightrope of we can't eat this or that.
Yeah.
So basically,
No,
we
like,
get
yeah.
Subway whenever we travel.
Nice.
And about an hour before her call, like before she shows up to do her warm up. So we get Subway, and she handles that well. And so we know that works for her.
Everything's trial and error for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like in general, when people are kind of mapping out what works for them, the idea is to do something consistently for X
Yes.
amount of days and see how you feel and then adjust accordingly, essentially.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to just encourage, find out what works for you, and don't always listen to the experts everywhere. What works for you, and do that. Now, there are still principles. Like I'm saying, you should eat a relatively high protein diet. You should be fueled for your workouts. You should avoid not eating for 8 hours a day if you're an athlete. So I'm not saying there aren't principles, but especially around workout times, that's, I think, in my experience, that's been very individual. Now, if there was a ton of research that said clearly eating within an hour or whatever, I would tell you it's clearly better, but I can't.
There's nothing
so
that's
in the
specific.
absence of that, what works best for you?
And the protein, like shakes, the
I was gonna ask about
protein.
that.
Yeah, like, in terms of those kind of more supplemental meals, are those, like recommended? Are those like, I would try to avoid, or if you have to have, have these prior to, before and after?
So I'll talk about ideal and then reality.
Okay.
In an ideal world, let's just talk about protein. In an ideal world, you're getting all of your protein from whole food sources.
Okay.
And let's say you're not vegetarian, so chicken breast, salmon, lean beef, fish, that would, in an ideal world. In a practical world, it's hard for me to get all of my protein, 200 grams per day, from chicken breast, tuna. So I personally rely on protein supplements, protein bars. And I think that is a better net benefit in terms of I need to meet my protein goal. I would like to, ideally, it's coming from whole foods. I read this one time. It's much more convenient to carry a scoop of protein than fish in your lunchbox.
Sure.
So there's a practicality to this. And I really like the idea of after training, that's a great time to get a protein supplement.
what I
Some
was
people
wondering.
aren't hungry,
Right.
but you can always drink protein. So that's what I tend to do. And you can also have it before. It's just as good as after. I just like doing it after.
Yeah.
Can you have too much protein?
There comes a point where if you keep eating more and more protein, there's no added benefit. So is it going to be harmful? I'm not aware of that. If you eat too much fat, that's unhealthy. If you eat too many carbs, that tends to put on body fat. Same thing with dietary fat. So I'm not aware of eating too much protein and it causing weight gain. But if somebody says I'm eating 3 times more protein than what I need, I would ask, well, what benefit do you think you're getting? And if they said, well, I'm building more muscle, I would say you're not.
So the base, though, in terms of nutrition is the protein intake, no matter whether you're trying to bulk up or slim down.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I could make an argument that when you want to lose body fat, that you actually increase your protein, which again, that's maybe crazy talk, but protein is a very unique nutrient. It's anabolic for muscle, and it actually is catabolic for fat if somebody's not eating very much to start. So I'm aware of 5 different studies in humans across the spectrum of populations. So menopausal women, elderly women, young resistance-trained women, young sedentary women, and then normal resistance-trained males and females. And all of these studies, when they increased one of these was from my study in my lab. When they increased protein, they actually lost body fat.
What was the last one?
Sedentary?
Yes, what's that?
Oh, sedentary means just not active.
Oh,
Like you're
okay.
you're not
Absolutely
exercising.
anything?
Yeah. So just if you want to think sitting on the couch all
Yeah.
day.
Right.
Gotcha.
But even with that, if you're but
Increased
you
protein.
could potentially, if you increase your protein.
Yes, if you're eating low levels to start.
Yes.
And the only thing these researchers did was say, hey, you group increase protein. You group change nothing. The group that increased their protein lost body fat.
Got
Wow.
it.
Which is weird because that goes against what I thought for many years. When you increase calories, you should gain weight. But there's something unique about protein. And if any of your listeners want their studies, like they shouldn't. Sorry, I bumped it. You don't have to trust me. I can provide the research.
Right, you're like, it's there. Okay, I've done
Wait,
the work.
but I have a question in terms of, because I oftentimes have a crazy schedule, so like there are times where I'm like, I've probably eaten my car more times, pick up practice, drop off practice, all things. If you are that type of active person and you're not like, I pack my meals or snacks all the time, and you do have to go to a fast food spot, like, are you like, okay, I know I'm good if I just get my chicken nuggets because that's the protein I can get? Am I like pulling the chicken patty out of my hamburger? You know what I mean? Like, what's the best way to go about fast food? Talk to me.
So let's talk about ideal versus reality. In an ideal world, which I don't live in, you wouldn't do fast food.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's common. As long as you control your calories, you won't gain weight from that.
So order a Happy Meal, like like the mini meals.
Yeah, I mean, I would still say as much
Yeah.
as you can, prioritize protein in your fast food meals.
Okay.
I will say the more I'm studying health, I used to be much more permissive of Skittles. It's
Mhm.
okay if you have Skittles. And again, it's still okay. I don't like to demonize foods. Like I want my children to enjoy. I've got 2 daughters. Like I don't want them to feel guilt about
Yeah.
having
Right.
snacks.
Healthy food relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the more we can limit processed foods, out to eat foods, the better we'll be. But I was at a restaurant last night. I was gonna say I know we walked by a Taco Bell. I haven't been to a Taco, but I used to go to Taco Bell.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, listen, I love me a good Mexican pizza. It's going to happen. It just is
I
what
haven't
it
been to
is.
Taco Bell. I only go to Taco Bell for one reason, and you guys don't want to know that reason. So we're just gonna skip over that.
So
I would
obviously,
love to know, but I'll.
right. Well, yeah. Obviously, we are in a time of a lot of trends, a lot of fads, a lot of things that are happening, and people are trying to lose weight and all that. And you were speaking on it earlier with the kind of quick move or whatever, Ozempic and these shots and all that type of stuff is kind of a big ordeal. I don't know how much you've kind of like really dove into it with your research. Okay.
I can talk about, if you want to talk about those drugs.
Yeah, and like kind of the reality of the effects of them. Because I'm always concerned when I hear people I know that are using them. I just don't know what the long term of it all is. And I just don't want it to end up being, like it's working now and that's great. But I just don't want there to be some,
there's like Ozempic face and Ozempic body. Like there's
A lot of things,
a lot of shit.
Yeah, well, I like your initial hesitation because nobody can say they know the long-term effects because they haven't been out for more than, they've been around longer than what most people think.
Sure.
So I've really had to struggle with this as a fat loss researcher, fitness. I think of myself as a fitness professional, used to be a trainer. So my gut instinct or my initial reaction was, I don't like these medications. I don't want to say cheating, but I don't like the idea of taking a shot to lose weight. But then I'm thinking, I'm an adult now. I don't have to just go with my gut instinct. And I'm thinking, we live in a very sick society in terms of obesity, people with overweight, and I don't want my fellow Americans, I don't want anybody, but just I don't want my culture to be sick. And if these medications can help people not be sick, then why am I going to create a barrier through my small voice and say, no, you shouldn't do this?
Okay.
And as fitness professionals, so when I talk to fitness groups, my message is this could be this is an amazing opportunity for us as fitness professionals, because we have people with obesity that are never going to think about stepping into a fitness facility. They have a lot of shame. People treat them like, when you're obese, you are invisible to people. There's fear that I can't fit in the machine. I don't know how to use the machine. So there's all kinds of stigma and bias against people with obesity. But if they take these medications and they lose a lot of weight, and part of the issue with these medications is there seems to be a little bit of a loss of more muscle mass than we would like. But who is better prepared? Well, are they now more or less likely to step into a place of fitness? They're much more likely now because they can fit in the machine. They don't look a lot different. And I get excited about that, because there is nobody better than us, than we fitness professionals, to help this population. Let's market our hey, if new or lost a lot of Ozempic weight, here's what I can offer you. So yeah, I think it's a greater good than not, and I'm optimistic that fitness professionals can help with this. Let me also say, I don't like when I do struggle with people, let's say like myself, if I were to, and I may take these drugs at some, I'm not going to say I would never do it.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think that would be a good decision, because I'm taking on whatever risks there are when I don't need to. I can lose body weight. I know how to exercise. I should just say no to the talkies. That's
Why would you want to?
Right.
Right.
so. You guys are probably seeing my own mental struggle. So I think it's probably a greater good for people with obesity, and maybe not a place that people that are healthy enough to make
to take advantage
other
of.
decisions.
Yeah.
I
The
think
gym.
I have that similar feeling around, and I'm not, obviously nobody's health expert or nothing. It's just me with an opinion like everybody else, right? Like an asshole with opinion. But I think that's kind of the, not scary part, but the part that I think I too wrestle with, because it's like, if it's an extreme situation, then this makes sense. But the other part of it is also, I know you talked about like, and it's probably part of why doing kind of the health fads and like diets and stuff aren't sustainable, because the minute you get off of it, they're dealing with the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm always wondering, for the folks who aren't in the more severe cases of it, but are just looking for a little faster way to get it, despite, and but are you going to be then having to do this forever? Like where's
Keep your 10
the,
pounds off?
how does that work?
According to the research, yes. The research reports
what?
when you stop taking the medications, you gain the weight back.
Yeah.
So you do balloon. Yeah, you go like.
Well, I don't know about,
potentially, but you
gain the weight back. I don't know if it's gain. I don't think the studies I'm thinking of, they're not gaining more. But if you lost 50 pounds over 12 months and now you stop taking it, you gain the 50 pounds back. And that's another thing. Again, I love fitness professionals. Like that's who I train. I train future fitness professionals. Help them get the habits while they're on the medication, so that they can come off and maintain it.
Yes.
Can I also just say, I love
Please.
talking to you guys. You guys make talking so easy. So this
thanks.
is
Thank
awesome.
you. No, I mean, you've
Thank
been,
you.
this is
No.
really
Thank
helpful.
you.
And
This is great.
and we're hoping that like anyone who's listening, we're real people, right? Like we're real people who have real schedules and who are doing real things. And I like to always speak for just kind of every person who's like, listen, I'm not the most fit. I'm not the most like disciplined in that area, but we all want to feel good about ourselves. And for me, gaining weight was tied into my mental health, right? Like I deal with depression. And so I had a really bad bout. And so I gained all this weight. And so it's always important. Oh my God.
I know.
Like,
That's hot. You're
sorry.
good. You're good. It's
I'm
a really
getting
good
emotional
story.
because I know that like a lot of people, it's so tied into how we feel about ourselves, our physical appearance, and it is not always easy to talk about. And so it's not always easy for people to find their entry point into getting themselves into that space so that they can do the physical while they're,
Yes.
improving their inside.
Yeah.
And so I'm always excited to have these conversations to give practical tools, because I'm not going to go out and spend $1,000 on a trainer that I don't have. I need to figure out how to do this for myself. So any way that we can help anyone who's looking to do that, I'm always excited to do so.
And with real honest information. That's, I think, what's important too. Because no, girl, don't apologize. That's great. Yeah, no, that's you. Yeah, I think, too, because to Erica's point, there's so much information out there. It's like, where do you start? What do you do? How do you do? And then everyone's pushing something, whether it's a, fad diet or a quick way to do something, or just, cortisol. Like, there's so much shit that gets thrown at you. You're like, where do I start? How do I start? What's real? How do I maintain? Especially when you are an entrepreneur, you have multiple like different schedules and calendars and things like that. It's like, how do you maintain? And people are like, well, you just have to manage. It's like, well, fuck. Do you know how many things I have to manage?
Right. I'm not trying to be an Instagram model.
Yeah, especially as a parent. Like
especially as a parent. Right. So, you're constantly being pulled in different directions. And so I do think, like, body dysmorphia is something that I grew up with. My mom constantly talked about her weight. And so, I don't talk about, I want my daughters to have good, healthy relationships with food. So it's not that we don't talk about food. I'd never criticize their choices. There's always there's always a better route. I'm like, well, instead of, Takis, why don't we do cucumbers and tahini, type of thing. Like, so we talk about just alternatives, but and then I have athletes. So I'm like, they eat something, she eats something, I eat something, like the fucking dog eats something. Like, it's like 18 different meals I got to make and figure out, and so it's a constant pool and a struggle.
Yes.
So we just value your transparency and, the realness about like there's a reality and there's like, a made up life.
There's an ideal and there's a reality.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah. So
sorry, I didn't like. Come on, crying and shit, and we're talking about food. Like, anyways, now I'm gonna go eat the pizza. Let's be honest. But all that to say, I think if there was a prevailing thing that you find is really important for people to think about when they're thinking about nutrition and fitness, if you had to say anything, what would be something that you always kind of make sure you put out there when you're talking to folks about it?
I would say do what you enjoy doing that gets you moving. So again, I've created thousands of programs, done studies. It comes back to you're going to do what you enjoy and you're not going to do what you don't enjoy. Mm-hmm. So let's be honest about that. What do you enjoy doing? Do that and embrace it. And I'll also say if you are active, there's research, and this is pretty this is really interesting research, and this is not my research area, but I'll just use I'm very visual.
Yes, hell yeah. Go ahead,
like
hands
this
it.
curve that goes like this.
Okay.
This up here, it's like almost like a big letter U.
Okay.
Up here is when you are not active, and this also means when you're not active, you have a dysregulated appetite, and you're eating a lot more food. And then as you get more active, your appetite becomes regulated. So essentially, the more that you can be active, your appetite is going to become regulated. And what that means two things. Satiation is a big word, and satiety. But what this research says is the more physically active you become, satiation means you stop eating when you're full. So for me, I could eat an entire pizza. If I have a better regulated appetite, I'll stop. Oh, I'm full after 4 pieces. I will stop. And then the other part of this is satiety. You're not hungry between meals. So you stop eating when you're full and you don't eat when you're not hungry. So physical activity drives this regulated appetite. So the worst position somebody can be in is somebody who is not doing any activity, and because they have an unregulated appetite, they're eating a lot of food, and it's like a self-perpetuating cycle.
Interesting.
So physical activity is key. I think it's key because of that research. Again, that's not even my area, but man, that's powerful to me.
And I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions. I'm gonna let you go. I promise. When people say I plateaued, like what does that mean? And,
we just talked about this.
Oh yes.
When you say plateaued in weight loss.
Yes, weight loss, like, like people are like, I plateaued, like, that's their jam. And then where does hydration play in nutrition in terms of like diet? And a lot of people, from my understanding, have said to me at least like, well, you might not be hungry, you might just be dehydrated. And I'm always like, well, that's interesting, So I'm like, well, let me drink the water before I eat the food and all those stuff.
Okay, so let's go plateau, then we'll go water.
Okay, fair.
So plateau. When people are weight loss plateaued, according to the research, this is very interesting, and I just talked about this with my students. When if you read any research study that lasted 12 months long, that's a weight loss study, across the last 30 years, across the world, different labs, you're going to see almost the same exact data graph. I'm going to use my finger. You're going to see the first 6 months, they've all lost the most amount of weight. And after 6 months, they start gaining it back. Why did they have a plateau, or why did they start gaining weight? And it's basically because the best research suggests that people are no longer following the diet. If you keep dieting month after month after month, guess what? You're sick of it, and you're just not going to follow it. So I think that the easy solution there is plan diets that are shorter in duration, no longer than 6 months. And have you ever heard of the concepts of diet breaks and refeeds? So take breaks on the weekends, increase your calories back to maintenance
That's the
levels.
cheat day kind of thing. Like
Yeah, cheat day implies, again, food orgy where you're just
everything.
Yeah.
So not that, but going back to your maintenance calories, or the number of calories that you can eat that won't cause weight gain. But I'll tell you, when you've been dieting 25% lower Monday through Friday, and then you go back to your maintenance calories, it seems like a lot of calories that you're eating extra, but it's just normal calories.
Okay.
And then back to the water. I know I'm supposed to say you have to be hydrated. I don't think it matters.
No shit.
I can point to a study that said 500 milliliters, so half a liter of a water preload before a meal has somewhat of an effect on weight loss. So there is that one study I can remember.
Not that one study. I'm dying.
That one time.
It's like I think I saw it somewhere on a bumper
Yes.
sticker. It's crazy.
So please drink water.
Sure.
Please stay hydrated.
Right.
But is your life going to be upended if you don't get your 8 glasses? I don't think so. I haven't seen that research.
There's no real science to it in the
okay.
grand scheme of things.
Look at us. Look
I
at
have-
us, tequila.
Okay. Ow.
But tell me, you're still going to drink water.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
You're going to
Talk
get out
about
of here
it.
and say vodka.
Right.
Water's ridiculous.
There's water and
well,
tequila.
It's funny though, because when I was doing my little weight loss journey, not little, but when I was doing my weight loss journey, like I'm like, oh, I got to drink a gallon of water
Oh my
a day, and I'm like
gosh.
trying to force myself to drink a gallon. And to be honest with you, I do not know why. I know that people were saying you should drink a gallon of water,
Right.
because let's be honest, a lot of us are just hearing what people are saying
You're like,
and are
"Let's
like,
go
oh,
with
that
it."
sounds good.
Yeah.
It's water, so why wouldn't I, right? And you're going
Yeah.
with it. And I was that kind of person, was susceptible to like, if multiple people are saying it, then it must be true, right? And so I was like trying to like force myself to drink a gallon of water a day, and it was kind of like, well,
How
Absolutely
was that
not.
enjoyable or not?
Absolutely not.
no, like
First of
why
all,
am I
see-
we
doing
both
this?
have bladders the size of walnuts. It's not okay. That much water is inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I don't like about that is they're giving you the same advice as maybe somebody that's 240 pounds. A gallon of oil, there's a different size body
That's true.
here.
Right.
Yes.
Fair. Yeah.
That's true.
Now, again, I'm not going to say don't hydrate,
Of
but I get
course.
the gallon. It's just
It's not
That's wild.
necessarily going to be the thing that's going to make or break your weight loss or
no,
whatever.
calories
journey per se.
will affect your weight loss.
Yes.
But yes.
Got it. Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well,
So
there's a lot more shit we'd like to ask you, but
well, right, we'll have you come back.
Yeah, I know.
But a
We got all
fun
the
thing that
things.
we like to do before we let you out of our hair or whatnot is ask a couple of fun facts about you and things that you enjoy. So
All right.
we want to know your favorite cheat meal.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Ooh.
The kind that are warm that come out of the oven.
I literally
And,
was
like,
like,
soft and
from
doughy?
yes,
Yes, yes.
absolutely, yes.
With milk that I put in the freezer for about 8 minutes so that the milk is almost has a
Slushy
frozen.
kind of?
No, not that. No,
Oh,
then I
okay.
don't want it. Almost frozen, but not quite.
Okay, so because you're dipping, you can't dip. Can
No,
you
I
dip?
don't dip, but the
It's just
chocolate
a-
chip cookies make me feel like very thirsty for milk.
Oh
But
yeah.
not slushy milk.
No, I
No,
hear you.
no
Yeah,
one's doing
I like
slushy
milk
milk.
with the yes. I like
That's weird.
cold milk.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, so I
Yep,
feel
yep,
you.
yep.
Okay.
Your favorite like meal period, like if you're like this is the last meal I'm ever gonna have, in
Ever.
life, right? Like what are you ordering?
Pizza. I like pizza.
Yeah, a
What
particular
kind
kind?
though? Like
Cheese pizza.
that's it? No toppings, sir?
I'm very boring.
I'm like pizza.
If pizza is a metaphor for
A
life,
cheese
that is
pizza?
me. I'm a cheese pizza.
Thin crust? Like, are we getting crazy? Are you doing like?
I love thin crust, but I have a voracious appetite, so thin crust doesn't really make me
Yeah,
feel full.
you-
So
oh,
You need the crust.
I need to feel full.
Are you stuffed crust?
No, I'm too
Okay.
cheap for that.
You know what?
You gotta pay
This is
extra
why
for
I do
stuff.
I like
It's
to
like the
do.
guacamole.
This is-
It's like, do I get the guacamole?
Right,
It's
right, like,
$1.50. That's wild.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Two
This is after
scoops,
taxes. Then I'm
actually.
like, guacamole, bitch. Yeah, no, so I get it. I'm not mad at that. Do you sports? Like, do you watch sports? Are you a sports fan? Any of that?
Yeah.
Basketball,
So,
obviously.
I don't watch as much basketball. I played basketball. So a lot of football.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
watch baseball as much. Don't watch basketball as much. Watch more golf now.
Oh, okay.
Favorite golfer?
Yeah, boom.
Current.
Bryson DeChambeau.
Oh.
Did you ever hear of that guy? Or no?
No, not at all. And I'm a
He's on
golfer.
the Live Tour. He won the U.S. Open last year, so the
Okay.
big
Oh,
big
fun.
tournament.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
more of like an Ian Poulter kind of like
wow.
kind of like fan.
He's on the Live Tour as well,
Yes,
so that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the other competing.
yeah,
Yeah,
Justin
I know.
Rose, like those are my
Good.
guys.
Just
Those are my
he's
jams.
European too, right?
He is, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long time.
excuse me.
I do a golf thing, guys. I do a golf
Who's
thing.
your favorite baseball team? Oh, no, football.
Football team.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll answer baseball. Phillies. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I
Okay.
like the Phillies.
Oh.
Football. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I root for the Bucks because I live in Tampa Bay, but Steelers
Okay.
are my favorite.
I like
Okay.
it. I
NFL.
can, I can roll with Steelers. Yeah.
What
Okay.
was the big neck guy? Come on now.
Current player on the Steelers?
No,
or-
no, back in the day.
Oh, Levon Kirkland, maybe. Defense or offense?
Don't get me to asking questions,
Oh.
sir. Come on now.
Not the
I know it's a
big
sporting.
neck
She's
guy.
a sporting gal. Rosenberger.
Oh, Ben Roethlisberger. I didn't know he had a big.
I was like,
got a huge
big neck was a
Like,
terrible description.
He's
That
got
was
his
awful.
neck like leans into his traps. It's wild.
I'm not gonna hold you. I would have went
Oh
with
my
a totally
goodness.
different description for
Roethlisberger.
Ben, but we're not even gonna go there on this
No, I mean he
podcast.
got heavy and he got he was a cutie pie for a long time. Okay, here we are. Guys, this was another episode of Sportsing. Thank you so much for joining
Yes,
us.
thank you.
Dr.
Thank you
Bill,
for having
we
me.
really appreciate
really
you.
appreciate
We're going to
you
have
being
him back. When you guys submit your questions, do a thing. We'll make sure you get those answered for you. And tune in. How do you do it? Tune in.
This is why she never does the
Save.
wrap up. This is literally why I never let her do the wrap up. All right, guys, thank you for another episode of Sportsing. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, tell everyone, tell a friend, pass it along. Actually, before we do that, do you have a place where people can like go and get some of the information that you shared and all that type of stuff, like
Oh,
a
I like
website and all the
that.
jazz? Okay,
Talk to me.
I'll say two things. So I'm doing a menopause fitness series.
cool.
So years of my research and reading all put into a YouTube menopause fitness and nutrition series. So go to my YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's Bill Campbell, PhD.
Okay.
And my Instagram, where I talk about my menopause fitness series all the time, is Bill Campbell, PhD.
Okay.
Perfect.
Fuck
Wonderful.
yeah.
So we'll
Well,
make sure that information is out there for you so that they can find it because it's such valuable information. And I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that. But anyways, so come back to Sportsing, all the things. Y'all know, subscribe,
Y'all know
do the
what's
thing. And we'll be back next week. I'm Erica.
I'm Gloria. Don't even do it. That's Gloria. I'm Gloria. And this is Dr. Bill Campbell, PhD. Get your guys' life right. Follow. Do the things.
Bye.
Sportsing, y'all.
Thank you.